ayikholana buso wami awukholana kilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana kilondoloze
Welcome everyone. So great to see you. Both I see familiar faces and new ones. This is really exciting and we can't wait to hear from Michel. But first I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Maria and I'm standing in our guest house / office in the archipelago outside of Stockholm.
And I'm Kristina, and I'm here in my apartment on Södermalm in the center of Stockholm. Welcome to Own Your Birth, the online platform where we invite thought leaders in birth to share their expertise and experience to help us all create better conditions for healthy births.
Yeah, and get to co-create a resourceful and interactive community alongside regular moms, their partners, doulas, midwives, doctors, and everyone really interested in this subject. So first I have to say, we like to dance when we start this because we want to get the oxytocin flowing. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about oxytocin if I know Michel Odent right. And we're so honored to have you here, Michel. And we can't wait to hear more from you. But first, we're just quickly gonna introduce you to the format. Usually we have a meditation, but we're gonna skip that today because we want to hear as much as possible from Michel. And he'll talk for around an hour, and then we'll open up the floor to you, the participants, to ask questions to Michel for around half an hour.
And there are so many of you here today. That's such a pleasure. I know people have been waiting for a long time to listen to Michel Odent in Sweden, and we're delighted and proud to be able to deliver this to you all. So the technology, probably most of you by now are absolutely sick of Zoom, but that's the way we're going to have to get used to communicating, I think. But I'll just quickly run through the technical side. So in your top right-hand corner, you can switch between gallery view and speaker view, depending on whether you want to see everyone or just the person speaking. And we invite you to turn your videos on because it's wonderful to share the beautiful faces and see that it's real people we're communicating with. And at the bottom of your screen, if you're on your computer anyway, there's a row of icons right at the bottom. And if you hover over that row, you'll see different functions that you can activate. So I would ask you all to get familiar with being able to mute yourself in case the background is noisy where you are. We can mute you too, but we'd appreciate if you take responsibility for that yourself. And also you can open chat rooms, please, or not chat rooms, just the chat function, because that's a really good way of communicating with us. And if you have a question for Michel, you can write it down there so you don't forget it, and we can read it out later, or Michel can read it himself. And also I would like to invite you to begin with to simply write in the chat where you are, who you are, why you're here. Are you a doula, a midwife? Are you pregnant? Are you just interested in birth? Do you want to listen to Michel because he's one of the most amazing thinkers we have in the West today? Because I do. So I'd really appreciate if you could write down in the chat bar why you're here, because that helps us understand who's interested in the things we present. And if you have any feedback for us, we're delighted to have it. So welcome, Michel. We are beyond proud and happy to have you here. You're a great hero of ours, and to most people who become involved in the field of childbirth will encounter you and your really progressive and groundbreaking ideas. And you become a bit of a Michel Odent nerd, I think, once you've started. I mean, I loved your book, The Future of Homo. I thought it was so vital to the world, really, with its philosophical perspective and looking at birth from a, a real bird's eye view. And so it's with gratitude I would like to start you off by, please tell us a little bit about your personal journey towards becoming the obstetrician and thinker that you are today, because we can all Google the facts about, where you trained and so on, but maybe tell us a little bit more about your personal journey to become the person you are today.
So, thank you for the way you have introduced me. I confess, I feel the need to go to Sweden and dance with you.
Yeah, come.
So, as you know,
We'll arrange it.
we're supposed to talk about the birth process, birth physiology, and how we can understand birth physiology in a renewed scientific context. You know that we're a renewed scientific context. There are many emerging, fast developing scientific disciplines. And at the present time, our way of thinking, our behavior is constantly influenced by what we're learning from these emerging scientific disciplines. About the birth process, it's useful to recall that the way it has been understood has been changing many times according to the phase of the history of mankind we consider. We can to simplify that before the domination of nature by our ancestors, domestication of plants, of animals, agriculture, animal husbandry, to a certain extent, domestication of human beings, cultures, and so on. Before the so-called Neolithic revolution, we have a sufficient amount of information to say that women used to isolate themselves to give birth. Mm-hmm. We can say until recently, this revolution, the Neolithic revolution, is 10,000 years ago. It's recent, 10,000 in the history of mankind. So before that time, we can say women used to isolate themselves to give birth. They could, at that time, privacy, not to feel observed, was considered the basic need of a woman in labor. After that, as we said, our ancestors started to dominate nature. Domestication of plants, domestication of animals, and we don't realize that at the same time, there was to a certain extent the domestication of human beings, and particularly the socialization of some phases of human life, and particularly the birth process. From that time, birth gradually became more and more socialized. It was new, often more and more than in the past. When a woman was giving birth, there was somebody around. It was new. The advent of midwifery is comparatively recent. And also, from generation to generation, cultural milieus were transmitting beliefs and rituals. So birth became socialized and more socialized. We have not the time with variants according to different places in the world, but birth became socialized. More and more socialized until recently, when we have reached ultimate phase of birth socialization, particularly middle of the 20th century, big turning point I can talk about because I started to be a medical student in maternity unit in Paris in 1953. So I have been involved in childbirth since 1953. So it was a big turning point because from that time, birth was more and more socialized, and in particular, what was new, the environment was masculinized. There were men around. Before that time, it was women business. Socialized, but it was women business. But after the middle of the 20th century, there were men around, more and more doctors. And after that, it became routine that baby's father was involved in present at the birth. So birth had been more and more and more socialized. It seemed that today we have reached an extreme limit. We can say in retrospect that the more the birth has been socialized, the more difficulty it has been. Today, we don't need long development to say that births are more and more difficult. There are not many women who give birth by themselves. We can wonder, it's an aspect of the domination of nature, socialization of childbirth is an aspect, a facet of the domination of nature we have reached today. And at that time, when we have reached such limits, when we have reached the limit of domination of nature, we have to wonder, what can we do? It's as if we are at the edge of the precipice, you know, what can we do? We have to change, to take another direction. And what I want to emphasize that, and it's a reason for optimism. We'll talk about the reason for pessimism. They're obvious. But a reason for optimism is that it's not utopian that in the near future we'll acquire a new way to understand birth physiology, a new way to understand the physiological processes in the period surrounding birth. But for that, there are two conditions. The first condition is that our point of departure when studying birth physiology is become different from what it is until now. We have to start from new questions. Kristina mentioned my previous book published in English, The Birth of Homo. What is important in this book? It's not the text, it's the cover. What can you see on the cover? A big question mark. What does it mean? It means when we are in an unprecedented situation, and we are constantly in unprecedented situation, the first thing to do is to phrase appropriate question. And this is the case for the birth process. It seems that until now, when people study birth physiology, the point of departure is not the right question. Health professionals who are among us today, midwives, doctors, and others, and so on, have studied textbook. And in this textbook, there are probably a small chapter, often very small, but the physiology of parturition, birth physiology.
Crazy.
But in this short chapter about birth physiology, the point of departure was always the same. It was a question. The question was, why are human births difficult? That's the point of departure. And after that, they say human births are difficult for mechanical reasons. It's a question of morphology. They show you drawings of the skeleton, of the pelvis, the shape, the size of the skeleton of the mother, shape of the size of baby's, the head of baby, and they say, for mechanical reasons, births are difficult among human beings, full stop. You don't need to say more. Why? To study in-depth birth physiology, you cannot change the shape of the body of the mother when she's pregnant. So it's not a very interesting question. If you start from this question mark, it's another matter if you start from another question. And that's a good way to summarize what is special to our time. We have to learn to phrase appropriate questions. And it's another matter if our point of departure is another question. The relevant question should be, why occasionally human birth are easy and fast. We all heard that anecdotes. They were more common in the past. But there are still such anecdotes occasionally. Occasionally, women who are not special, morphologically speaking, shape of the body and so on, give birth easily, quickly. Some women even have just the time to realize they're in labor and baby is born. That had been well known for ages, you know, and many languages, there was a term for that, you know. In French, I don't know in Swedish, there is a term, les pondeuses d'enfants. It means women who give birth to their baby like hens laying eggs, you know, puff, like that. And I heard about such phrases in Italian, and you know, so it has been well known for ages that occasionally women can easy and fast birth, even some women today. And this is a useful question. Why occasionally human births are easy and fast? If you start from this question and the answer we can provide, you immediately realize that probably until now, we have overestimated the importance of mechanical physiological factors. We have been focusing only thinking of the shape of the body of the mother and the baby and so on. Probably it has been overestimated. Probably there are other factors influencing the way women give birth. What are these possible factors? The point is to start from these questions. And if you start from this question, you realize that today, particularly with the fast development of neurophysiology, we can offer a new vision of the birth process among humans. Instead of looking at the pelvis and the shape of the body and so on, we must recall that we are human beings. What makes human beings special compared with other mammals who give us more easily? It's our huge brain. That's what makes human beings special. And in particular, what makes us special is the high development of the what is called the new brain, the neo-cortex, the new brain. It's the development of human brain is incredible. If you just compare with other members of the chimpanzee family, no, it's three times bigger. It's enormous. It's enormous, unique to human beings. And until now, of course, we knew that we had a neo-cortex, a new brain. But the point is that until recently, this new brain, this neo-cortex, was presented as a tool at the service of human physiological functions, providing information, but space, time, facilitating communication. It was a tool. Today, and that's new, that's a new way of thinking and a new way to understand human nature in general and some physical processes in particular. Today, we understand that it's not as simple as that. Of course, we have a special neocortex. What that makes us special is because we have such a powerful neocortex that people have invented Zoom, so we can talk between Stockholm and London easily. Only human beings can do things like that. But what we are understanding more easily today, it is that it's not as simple as that. And our neocortex does not always play the role of a tool at the service of physiological functions. On the contrary, in some situations, neocortical activity, the activity of this new brain, of this logical brain, the ones that we spoke and so speak and so on the contrary, this new brain can inhibit, can obscure some physiological functions, can make them more difficult. This is a concept of neocortical inhibition, which is becoming a key to understanding human nature in general and some physiological processes in particular. Let's mention examples of physiological processes that are inhibited by neocortical activity. One of them is the sense of smell. It has been easily demonstrated by sophisticated studies, but easy to interpret. If you drink a glass of wine, after that, your sense of smell is more powerful. When you drink a glass of wine, you reduce neocortical activity. You facilitate some physiological process. It's simple. Among you, there are doctors, midwives, other health professionals who know about primitive, archaic reflexes. You know, the reflexes that can be observed among newborn babies, very young babies, and they disappear after that. They disappear for a certain development of the neocortex. They are inhibited by neocortical activity. So I don't want to say more now, because many physical functions among humans are interpreted today with the help of this concept of neocortical inhibition. For example, why human beings need to learn a technique to swim. They cannot swim. After a certain age, development of the neocortex, they lose their capacity to swim. So this concept of neocortical inhibition is becoming a key for understanding human nature in general, some physiological processes in particular, and we must focus on the birth process. So after saying that, it's becoming much easier to understand the solution that nature found to make human birth possible and even potentially easy. That's the point. Why human birth can be possibly easy. The nature found a very simple solution. Human births are possible if the neocortex stop working or can reduce its activity. That's the point. That's the point. It's easy to say that, more difficult to realize, but it's like that. And I'm sure that among you, even in 2021, there are still some of you who can understand the solution that nature found to make human birth possible and even possibly easy. Some of you still know that when a woman can give birth easily, quickly, there is a time when she's as if cutting herself off from her world, forgetting what she read in books, forgetting her plans, forgetting what she knows and so on, what she has been taught and so on, so on. She can behave in a way that usually would be considered unacceptable regarding a civilized woman. They need to scream, to swear. Very interesting symptom that have not been widely noticed until now. Women in hard labor who can perceive odors that nobody else can perceive, a more acute sense of smell. And women who, by themselves, can find bizarre postures, unexpected postures, often primitive, mammalian, and so on and so on. Another detail, in retrospect, is that when women can give birth like that, obviously without neocortical control, often the days after, they cannot remember what happened when she was in labor. They cannot remember anything about the birth. So obviously, we are in a position when it's still possible for some people to understand the solution that nature found to make human birth possible and even potentially easy. It's reducing neocortical activity. It's easy to say that, difficult to understand, but easy to say that. It means that when we start from this interpretation of the birth process, we can more easily summarize what are the basic needs of a laboring woman. It means that a laboring woman needs first to feel protected is the key word, against any stimulation of her neocortex. As simple as that. The key word is protection. It's a new way of thinking. Until now, after thousands of years of social of childbirth, we are talking helping, guiding, controlling, in natural groups, they say coaching, doctors, medical literature is labor management. It's the same, it's cultural, groups promoting natural childbirth, medical circles, is the same way of thinking, to help, to guide, to coach, But today, when you understand the solution that nature found to make human birth potentially easy, the key word is protection. Protection against inhibitory factors, and among humans in particular, protection against all stimulants of the neocortex. I don't have the time to give details, but the main stimulants of the neocortex are well known. There is language. It means we should always avoid to talk to a woman in labor. Language is a stimulant of the neocortex. Light. And to summarize, because we have to be fast, we don't need details. We can say, to summarize, that all situations that stimulate the attention are stimulants of the neocortex. So it means that the laboring one needs to feel protected against any situation that might stimulate her neocortex. For example, if she feels observed, she will observe herself. It's a neocortical stimulation. Important, a woman in labor doesn't feel observed. Or if she can perceive some possible danger, something, she has to pay attention. So we can summarize, when we have understood that the keyword is protection, we can summarize what are the basic needs, because we know that effect of language, light, situation, stimulating the attention. We don't need to say, no, we can talk about details, particular cases, particularly today, after tens of thousands of social days of childbirth, we cannot change everything overnight, but we can understand, at least we cannot make a revolution overnight, but we must realize that in a renewed scientific context, suddenly we can reach a new understanding of the birth process. And that's a reason for optimism. It's that because, in fact, there are so many reasons for pessimism. We can say, but how can we survive, and so on and so on. That's why I like to start with the reason for optimism. It's not utopian that we accept what we are learning from neurophysiology, that we accept the concept of protection instead of helping and guiding, and that we realize what makes human beings special compared with all the other mammals is a huge development of our neocortex. When we talk about why a human physiological process is special, we must always consider what makes human beings special. What makes human beings special is a huge development of this part of the brain, of the neocortex, that we are really special. So I'm pleased to introduce some reasons for optimism. Of course, I feel obliged also today to say some word about what everybody is aware of, or more or less. Sometimes we prefer not to express what we know, what you feel. The reason for pessimism, they are obvious. They are obvious. Many reasons for optimism, for pessimism, for example, everybody knows today that to give birth, a woman originally is supposed to release a hormonal flow, a cocktail of hormones. And you all know that in the current scientific context, this hormonal flow is a kind of cocktail of hormones of love. When you consider oxytocin, prolactin, endorphin, and so on, or to give birth, women are supposed to release a cocktail of hormones of love. Hormones of love are important in this phase of our life. That's something we can say. But having said that, when you consider what's happening today, you can observe, it's a fact. I don't give opinions, it's a fact that today, at the planetary level, in the age of cheap synthetic oxytocin, in the age of easy, fast, safe technique of cesarean section, today, at a global planetary level, the number of women who give birth to babies and placentas, thanks to the release of a cocktail of hormone of love, this number is insignificant. That's a reason for pessimism. We don't, love hormones are now redundant. We don't know them in a critical period, such as the period of birth. Easy to explain that. Everybody can understand that. You have to train yourself to explain that. It's so simple. But when you explain that way, we have made hormones of love redundant and useless in the period surrounding birth. That's a reason for pessimism, for questions, for how long can human beings survive if they don't need hormones of love anymore. That's a serious reason for pessimism. It's just one reason among others to say, if we could understand better the physiological processes, that would make perhaps a difference. Another reason for pessimism, it's today, as you know, most women in general don't give birth in a familiar bacteriological environment. Until a recent period, women were giving birth in the place where they live, as home birth. It means they were giving birth among familiar and therefore friendly microbes. The important point, and that an opportunity to talk about another reason why human beings are special compared with other mammals, is that among humans, the antibodies called IgG can easily cross the placenta. That's another human particularity, plus the big brain. It means, I simplify, you have to be fast. It means that when a human baby is born, at the very time of the birth of the baby, this baby had the same antibodies as the mother, the same IgG as the mother. It means that the bacteria, microbes, microbes that are familiar and therefore friendly for the mother, familiar means friendly, are already familiar and friendly for the baby. So something we can immediately observe, because the baby has the same antibodies as the mother, it is that the first microbes, the first microorganisms that will occupy maybe of the body immediately after birth will be, to a certain extent, the rulers of the territory, to a certain extent, but particularly that a concept well understood by bacteriologists, but in particular, we can understand that the immune system of the human beings start to be educated immediately after birth by the first microbes that can occupy baby's body. They will start to educate the immune system. It means that until a recent period, the immune system of human beings, immediately after birth, was educated, was programmed by a great diversity of familiar and therefore friendly microbes. Today, without giving details, obviously, it's the opposite. Obviously, when you consider where most babies are born, it's not among a great diversity of familiar and friendly microbes. The immune system of human beings suddenly is not educated, programmed as it was in the past. That's a reason for many questions, new questions for epidemiologists in the future. One question is, to which extent the increased prevalence of dysregulation of the immune system is related to a place of birth with unfamiliar microbes and microorganisms that lack of diversity. To which extent? If there had been a revolution in the way human beings have been born in less than a century, it's from a bacteriological perspective, immunological perspective. It means the way our health starts to be organized immediately after birth. You don't need long development to say that from a bacteriological perspective, and therefore immunological perspective among humans, because of the structure of human placenta, we can say that there are two kinds of birth from this perspective: birth at home and birth elsewhere. Birth elsewhere. Impossible when you are not at home. It's impossible to reorganize the bacterial environment you have at home. It's impossible to replicate elsewhere. It's special. It means that suddenly we have to raise questions about how our health is organized. And when we consider what's happening today, that there are reasons for optimism. I was talking about dysregulation of the immune system. What does it mean? It means pathological conditions such as allergic diseases, autoimmune diseases, which are more and more common, viral diseases, viral diseases related to viruses, viral diseases can be presented as the effect or are related to dysregulation of the immune system. So that's another serious question, how we organize our health. At the present time, it's just a question. Some epidemiologists already have started study to evaluate the prevalence of some allergic diseases in relation to the way babies are born. But they have compared hospital birth with hospital birth. Compare hospital birth, different ways to stay, to be born in a hospital. But when you think like bacteriologists, immunologists, that's not the point. The point is you are born at home, you are born elsewhere. And without giving opinions, we can say that today, most babies are born elsewhere. So the immune system is not educated in the same way. And because we have a lot to learn, meanwhile, we have reason to be worried, even perhaps pessimistic. There is another way reason to be a little, to start being pessimistic when we consider how babies are born today. It is that one effect of reproductive medicine in general, and obstetric in particular, is to neutralize the laws of natural selection. All of you know about these laws expressed by people like Darwin and so on, laws old of billions of years, natural selection. But today, something absolutely new in the history of living creature, it is that the laws of natural selection are now neutralized, in particular, for many reasons, but in particular through reproductive medicine and obstetrics, more especially obstetrics. It's obvious, it's well understood that until recently, women who cannot give birth by themselves, they could not have babies. It's obvious, they could not have babies. They're dying when they give birth, or had only one handicapped child. So today, the number of children per woman depends upon other factors than how they give birth, many other factors. We have neutralized the laws of natural selection. I don't want to give details, but midwife doctors will understand what I say. For example, we know today breech presentation at term is mostly related to genetic factors coming from the mother or the father. That's why, until now, most babies were born at first. It was an advantage to be at first. Today, in the age of safe cesarean section, it's different. It's roughly, statistically speaking, we talk about it's not more dangerous to be born breech than to be born head first, statistically speaking, in the age of C-section. We have neutralized the laws of natural selection. No doubt, any mathematician can calculate how quickly the prevalence of breech presented at term will increase in the future. We might make other comments about, for example, human beings who are Rh negative. Being Rh positive was an advantage because it was a way to reduce the risk of disease by Rh incompatibility. But suddenly, with immunoglobulin antibody, is different. We have neutralized the laws of natural selection. That's incredibly serious. Can we do something to that? I'm not sure. We can only raise questions and think that in the future, human beings will be more and more dependent on medicine because we neutralize the laws of natural selection. It's a reason for pessimism. So what I wanted to say is that there are today, when we consider how human babies are born, there are today reasons for optimisms. And I was pleased to focus on that. But we must confess that there are also reasons for pessimism. And I don't know. It means we need to reach a new awareness, be aware. And one new awareness, a general rule, is something mysterious, unpredictable. So that's why we must not anticipate. We must not try to predict, to be prophets. What the only thing we can do at the present time is raising appropriate questions. We must be careful not to be too fast, to have opinions. We have to be careful with opinions, theories, anticipating what will happen in terms of your awareness. We are in the age of question mark. So this is what I wanted to do when talking with you. I wanted to introduce, in fact, a big topic. It is what our attitude should be when we are in an unprecedented situation. And today, whatever the subject, we are in an unprecedented situation. Consider how to protect the environment against nuclear waste, unprecedented situation. Consider effect of human activities on climate, unprecedented situation. Think of pollution of oceans by plastic, unprecedented situation. Think of how babies are born and how we can understand the birth process, unprecedented situation. So what I want to do is to enlarge the topic, to say we focus on one particular subject, which is the birth of babies. But in fact, we might speak the same way, whatever for many other subjects. We have to understand that about 10,000 years ago, our ancestors started to dominate nature. Before that, they were living on a day-to-day basis, what nature can offer. They started to dominate nature, domestication of plants, animals, and domestication of human beings as well. And whatever the topic today, we have reached the limits of the domination of nature. We have reached the limits. Our topic is one among others. We have reached the limit. What can we do? It's as if we're at the edge of the precipice, you know. We have reached a limit, we're at the edge of the precipice. What can we do? The only thing we can do, the only strategy is to take another direction. And how to take another direction is to reconsider, to challenge thousands of years of cultural, of tradition, of cultural conditioning. How is it possible? It's not completely utopian if we accept to learn from emerging and fast developing scientific disciplines. So I must thank you for giving me this opportunity to start from what is apparently a special topic, the birth of human babies, but in fact, it's not a special topic. It's studying, considering, and wondering how we can reach a new awareness. How can we find another direction in general? So thank you for accepting to formulate the title of our meeting that way. So thank you. I understand that now perhaps we can talk with some of you.
Yes, thank you so much, Michel. Oh my goodness, you've blown my mind. It's so interesting to look at the field of birth from this wider historical, cultural perspective. And you certainly do give many reasons for optimism without shying away from the serious condition that we are in as a species. And we are so grateful to have you as a thinker amongst us. And I really look forward to reading your next book about oceans, Planet Ocean, that's coming out tomorrow. Am I right?
Officially, it's published tomorrow.
Exciting, very exciting.
I probably have a copy of it not far away.
Oh, don't worry, we'll find it and we'll review it. But yes, there it is.
I have a copy of it.
Yay.
And the back. The back.
Excellent.
Yes. You see.
Yeah, so just anyone who wants to ask a question, please put your hand up.
The planet in the corner.
Do you know how to put?
Sorry.
Am I muted? Can you hear me? Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you disappeared and you came back. Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. So anyone who wants to ask a question, please go to the little emoji at the bottom of the screen called reactions. And there you can choose raise hand. That just makes it easier for us to see who's got a question.
It can be a question, but it can be enlarging the topic, introducing a topic a little bit different, expressing perhaps an opinion. It's not forbidden to have opinions, although it's dangerous sometimes.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a question. You can just express your opinion or have a theory, whatever you like.
Yeah, let's have a discussion. We have a question though already, or we have someone, FE.
So as I told you previously,
yeah,
I have a weak point related to my age, 91-year-old, my ears. So don't be surprised if I ask you to repeat.
Oh.
It'll be our pleasure to assist you. FE, I don't know what your full name is, but please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon to everybody. First, I want to say my name is Flavia, so sorry, I just put the initials. I want to thank Michel because it's a real pleasure to listen to you, to see you, to share this time with you, and to the organizers. I mean, this is amazing. He has done an amazing life work, so it is very much needed. I just wanted to ask you about trauma, Michel, because you have mentioned that the inhibition of neo-cortex activity would allow the birthing process to be easy and fast. And at the same time, if you have gone through any traumatic experience, that same neocortical processing is inhibited. So how would you make a parallelism between trauma and the inhibition of neocortex activity to make the birthing possible? I mean, it's the same, but in like a different way. So could you comment on that, on trauma? Yes. Because I feel it's at the very axis, at the core of many of the things that happen in the birthing process.
Yes, it's a very common question today because it's obvious that after thousands of years of socialized births are more and more difficult and often more and more traumatic. And particularly they can modify brain activity. So we cannot separate your question from the question of cultural conditioning. Yeah. All of us are conditioned by our cultural milieu, what happened among people around us, including what happened to us. You know, some people had, of course, traumatic birth. Some women had traumatic birth effect on their brain activity. Others can be in a special conditioning because they heard about their mother, their grandmother, their sisters, things like that. So it means that all of us, we are particular cases, particularly today. We have to be aware of that. We have to realize that. We have to know that there are differences. But the focus, meanwhile, is the focus should be on what is similar, the similarity, what is the same, what is common, what is similar, what is valuable. So instead, it's sure that at the present time, constantly, people are considering birth trauma, the trauma of birth, and so on, so on. I think it's more useful from a practical perspective. You want to go further at the present time to focus on the common point. Whatever is our cultural conditioning, whatever our past has been, and for some women, perhaps the way they were born, the way they give birth, and so on. We must focus much more on the universal needs instead of focusing on particular cases. And that's what I try to do, you know, in some minutes, because we can talk about everybody, every particular case, many kinds of human beings. In the past, it's probable that cultural conditioning was more uniform than today. But I think that from a practical perspective, we must focus on what is universal. In fact, studying physiology is studying what is universal. What all human beings have in common. That's to study physiology, and it's what we have to try to do, knowing that there will be variants. Some women will give birth easily, other difficulty. Many people wonder how to compensate the privacy, what happened wrong, and so on. And we can also raise some questions for the baby. For example, today, most babies at birth are in a state of microbial deprivation. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to talk about microbial deprivation today. Think that until now, microbes were enemies. They were a reason for diseases. Suddenly, what is special to most human beings, that they are born in a situation of microbial deprivation. Their body is not colonized by a great diversity of microbes. So it's always particular cases. And you talk about one particular case, women who have very traumatic situation, and so on. Babies have also traumatic situation, including bacteriological particularities. So it's good if we had a month together to talk about many particularities. It's useful. But today, what I try to do in some minutes for such a huge topic is to help everybody to realize that you are at a turning point in the history of sciences. And that we have to understand what is universal, what is the basis. And in terms of solution nature found to make human birth possible, we have to realize that this solution is reducing neo-cortical activity, knowing that according to the cultural conditioning, the background and so on, it's much easier for some people, for some others. But at the present time, we have to not to consider precise particularities. We have to be, that's why your question is important, because we cannot answer your question like that in some minutes. You know, there is no recipe to compensate deficit, to compensate birth trauma for the mother, for the baby, and so on. There is no recipe. Let's study what is universal, like physiology, studying what is universal, as a way to start.
Yeah.
Perhaps if we talk again together in a year from now,
I can.
That time for details.
Okay, thank you.
So,
we have another question or another hand up, and then we have more questions in the chat box. But Kajsa, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Michel, so when most of us work and give birth in a hospital.
Yes, I can.
Do you hear me?
In the corner. I can see you and hear you in the corner.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, most of us work and do give birth in a hospital setting nowadays. What's your advice to us to cooperate with midwives and doctors? What's your experiences on good cooperation when people don't understand these things? How should we do this in a hospital setting?
It's a very good question to clarify what's happening today. What's happening today, it is the lack of understanding of birth physiology is cultural.
Yeah.
It's not special to a group of people. It's not special to doctors. It's not special to groups promoting what they call natural childbirth. The lack of understanding of birth physiology is cultural. So what can we do? We must try to have an effect at a cultural level. The way babies are born, it's a topic for everybody. It's not a topic for midwives, for doctors, for pregnant women. It should be for the future of our species. And that's why I deviate a little bit from your question, because we must try to reach the cultural level. Often, I do for that. I like to have some books around me. I show the cover of books to explain. It's a way to answer your question, that the misunderstanding of birth physiology is widespread, cultural, everybody. And to do that, I do something simple. I'll show the cover of a book, American book. Some of you perhaps know it because it's in English, it's American, published during the second half of the 20th century by a guru of natural childbirth. He is Robert Bradley. Perhaps some of you know about Robert Bradley and this book called Husband Coach Childbirth. So he's a guru of natural childbirth. And what you see on the title, coach, coaching, is transmitting our cultural conditioning. To give a woman cannot give birth by herself. A woman cannot give birth without some kind of cultural interferences. She needs a coach. With a coach is somebody who can guide you, who have learned, who can guide you, touch you. It's typical of a deep-rooted cultural conditioning, including among those who promote natural childbirth. That's why it's so difficult today. You know, you raise a question about doctors, but I say it's cultural. It's cultural. You have to reach also people who promote natural childbirth. I'll go a little further.
Yeah.
When you look at the title, you can wonder who can be a coach. Who can be a coach? A man, husband, can be your coach. He's the one who can learn how you must give birth. It's typical of a deep-rooted lack of understanding of birth physiology. I'll go still one step further. If you go to the top of the book, you find the association of two words. You'll find the association of method and natural childbirth. Whether a method is not natural. It's a contradiction between method and natural. So just, it's once more, you don't need to read the book to realize that it transmits a deep-rooted cultural misunderstanding of birth physiology. That's why it's so difficult. So that's why I answer your question by deviating a little bit.
That was a great answer.
The target should not be the doctors.
Yeah, thank you.
Often the doctors have a lack of interest for birth physiology. Lack of interest. It's a little bit different. And we can explain why. Because they are told that human births are difficult for mechanical, morphological reasons. So you don't need to know more. So we can explain why. So I enlarge your question.
Thank you so much.
We must reach our cultural milieu.
Yeah.
The question is a question of cultural conditioning. Before the Neolithic Revolution, there was a cultural, we can say, a conditioning, different conditioning. Women were isolating themselves to give birth. After that, birth was socialized. So the conditioning became different.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
We have reached the limit of a conditioning. That's what. So your question is wonderful to explain. The limit we have reached are about our cultural conditioning all over the world. It's all over the world, you know. It's the same in Japan, it's the same in Brazil, it's the same. The book is from America, it's the same in Sweden. So the cultural conditioning is roughly the same. Even now in the Netherlands, where until recently they were, I knew the time when they were 30% home birth, but even in the Netherlands, they think in the same way than elsewhere. So that's why it's so difficult. That's why it cannot be overnight. That's why there is no recipe. We need a new awareness. New awareness is something mysterious, unpredictable.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Thank you. Thank you.
enlarging the question.
We have another hand up here, Katrin.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
I'm from Norway.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
You are from where? From where are you?
Norway.
Norway.
Norway, yes.
Great.
I had the pleasure of meeting you, Michel, for I think 5 years ago in Glasgow, in the Mama conference.
We met in Glasgow.
Yeah. When I listen to you now and when I listen to the questions, I'm just thinking about how urgent and how really important it is for us as a society to make sure that the first pregnancy and birth will be right for women, because we are making it really difficult for women to have normal pregnancies and normal birth the first time, and then the trauma comes, and then everything is, you know, going bad. So we need to find ways to make the first pregnancy and birth the best one for each and every woman.
Yes, that's a very important point, yes. It's sure that the obstetrical future of a woman depends a lot about how she will give birth to her first baby. Of course, we can minimize a little bit this question today because the average number of babies per woman is in many countries less than 2 now. So but you are right. If a woman could give birth by herself to her first baby, in general, people are relaxed for the second one, third one, and so on. So it shows that the rules, the general rules, the basic needs of women labor are can easily be summarized as universal: reducing neo-cortical activity, keeping a low level of adrenaline. If you release adrenaline, you cannot release oxytocin and so on. These needs are universal, but particularly important for the first one, because how women give birth to a first baby, it's a key to guess how she will give birth to following one. Although it's not simple, because so many factors here. You are right to reintroduce this question, which is not well understood, and sometimes it's understood the other way around, particularly in medical circles. You know, in medical circles, I heard people saying, "Oh, you should come to the hospital at least for the first one." You know? In fact, perhaps it would be better to think another way. You know, perhaps it's better to make the first one as easy as possible.
Why not?
And in general, it can be easier to make a home birth easier than hospital birth, not always. It's incredibly easy to disturb a home birth. Particularly today in the group of natural childbirth in America and so on, often like home birth is like a party. There are 3 people around, there is a camera, and there is it's easy to disturb a home birth, so it's not as simple. So you are right to raise the question that way. Let's try to make the first birth possible. After that, we can relax. Yes. Well, it's often a question raised by midwives, what you said, but you are not a midwife.
She is.
Yes, I am a midwife.
You are a midwife, yes.
Yes.
I was saying, yeah, that's really nice. Yes, because it's often a question raised by midwives, yes. I noticed that.
And I think we need to ask this question to our leaders. And to always ask this question, because they are making it more difficult to be a first-time mother with all these precautions and a lot of people are saying, a lot of the leaders and the doctors are saying that it's more dangerous to have a home birth when you're first-time mother. So we need to raise this question all the time to them.
Yes, that's something midwives can do, you know, midwives have the power to talk with doctors more than, in fact, it's a question of new awareness. So everybody must try to do what is possible, what you can do, have to do what is possible in your particular case. You are a midwife, you can talk with doctors. There are not many people who can talk with doctors like, like a midwife. Are you in Oslo?
I'm outside of Oslo, but I do not work in a hospital. I used to work with home birth, but then I had to quit, and now I'm just an independent midwife. But I try my best to get out with all the information and the research that I get my hands on, so that everyone can be aware of this.
Yeah.
I went to Oslo several times, but particularly once, I think it was around the late 1980s, in a university hospital in Oslo. I think this hospital is closed now, I'm not sure. Yeah. And they were creating, at that time, they were creating a birthing center attached to the university hospital with birthing pools.
Yeah, this
you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I know. I was working there for a few years. Yes.
Yes, I've forgotten the name of the, the hospital.
Aker Hospital. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Michel. We have another question for you.
Yes,
do you think that the mother's age matters? That the older she is when she gives birth the first time, the more difficult it is? Or is it just all in the brain?
Yes, that's a very important question today. Very incredibly important, you know. I know many people involved in childbirth today in London, midwife, doulas in particular. What I find strange, incredible, bizarre, is that finally today, there are more women in a city like London, but it's roughly the same elsewhere. In the city of London, there are more women who have their first baby at the age of 40 or later than women who have their first baby before the age of 20. That's something special to our society, bizarre, because obviously from a physiological perspective, although there are particular cases, it's not simple. But as a general rule, women who give birth around the age of 18, for example, in general, they have much easier birth in general. Let's forget than women in their 40s. No doubt that the quality of the uterine muscle is not the same. Of course, the incidence of ovulation, but that's much more conception. So that's something to consider. You know? So in the future, if you want to reverse the current tendencies, if you want to increase the number of women who can give birth to their first baby by themselves, we should find a way to dare to say what is not politically correct in some groups, that finally, ideally, perhaps, more women would give birth at an age when it's as easy as possible, statistically speaking, and that age is before the age of 20s. You know, girls, women age 17, 18. I have been in Guinea, Africa. I replaced a doctor in Guinea in 1960. There were women giving birth at the age of 14 because the married often at 13. So teenagers and young women below 20 in general can give birth very easily. They are easily disturbed. They are easily disturbed by invasive people, but they have the potential to give birth very easily. They have privacy. It's something to rediscover. In fact, you mentioned, I think, at the beginning of our meeting, you mentioned this book.
Mhm.
This is a topic I introduced in the last chapter. In the last chapter, I wonder about the future of socialized birth. And in this chapter, I raise this question, you know, one way perhaps to try to introduce a new tendency to have a positive effect of number of women who can give birth might be to dare to say, to repeat, to dare to say that as a general rule, a birth is easier before the age of 20 than after the age of 40 in general. Of course, there are women who give birth easily at maybe at the age of 41. We must not think of particular cases, but statistically speaking. So it's a very important question at the present time. At the present time, it's a way to talk about what is really special to our society. What I am amazed when I talk with the doulas, midwife I know in London, you know, I'm surprised, according to my own statistic, what I hear, that there are more women giving birth to their first baby after 40 than before 20.
Mhm.
It's strange. It's, when you think like physiologists, you say, it's strange. We have to dare to talk about that, at least as a beginning. Let's dare to talk about that.
But aren't we keeping healthier too at 40 today than we used to?
Say it again. Who's speaking?
Maria,
It's you.
I'm thinking, aren't we healthier today? Women in their 40s, aren't they healthier than they used to be in
yes,
general,
yes.
or stronger?
Yes, yes. Oh, yes.
Since
course.
we live longer, I'm thinking.
Yes, yes. Yeah, there are many factors.
Yeah. Anyhow, can we?
However, although there are, I have the experience of home birth with among women who above 40 have this experience, first baby. You know? But I'm talking in general.
Yeah. Right.
In general, so we have to dare to say that. Many things we don't dare to say. You know?
Right.
To dare to say that we must try to desocialize childbirth. We have to be audacious to say that.
Yes, very audacious. I have a question.
Audacious to challenge some of years of cultural conditioning.
Yes. The first
so dare
question
to be audacious.
that we were actually asked, well, I'd just like to raise the first question that we were asked, which hasn't been raised before we run out of time, is what is your best advice for a woman to optimize her ability to inhibit her neocortex during labor and birth? This is practical advice.
Yeah.
You know, as a general rule, I would say as few people as possible around. Impossible to give details, but this is when people tell me about a long birth problems, so I only ask one question: how many people were there around? Only one. It's a factor among many others, but perhaps not only you can say something like that, but sometimes it's possible also to introduce, to say something very simple before a woman is in labor, or something simple to the family as well, to the family. What I try to say often, simply, is, you know, because we have to be fast, you know, to give birth, you have to release, in particular, one important hormone called oxytocin. But you know, this hormone is special. It's a shy hormone. It's timid. Oxytocin does not appear among strangers and when you feel observed. So sometimes what can be done, you know, as a kind of advice, remember, it's roughly the same as few people as possible. It's roughly the same. It's another way to say the same. But the hormone, the main hormone you have to release to give birth is the shy hormone, the timid hormone. It's something simple, But people remember that. To be fast, to be fast without using scientific details and so on. So I understand that it's now late, that unfortunately we cannot stay together much longer, but I just express a hope now before saying bye-bye. I just hope that one day, one way or another, we'll meet again. Good evening.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. We would love that. We would love to have you back. Absolutely. Okay, so it's just a few more minutes, and we don't have time for any more questions. We just want to thank you so much for coming, Michel. We're very, very happy that you want to take your time.
Thank you for welcoming me.
It's a delight. There are many questions that have been asked in the chat that we haven't had time to address. But we'll just take a quick one, just the concluding question. Do you still assist birth?
Say it again.
Do you still assist birth? Do you still attend births?
Do I still attend birth? I never decided to stop, but in reality, I have stopped. I can tell you the last birth I have been, not so long ago, it was with Liliana, the doula, well known in London, but it was a very special birth. A Sunday afternoon, a woman called us to say, I'm in labor, second baby, I'm in labor. At that time, I was still driving a car. Now I don't dare to drive a car. People say that with my age, it would be too dangerous. So we left immediately, but we went there in I think 20 minutes to go there. But we arrived after the birth of the baby, between the birth of the baby and the birth of the placenta. And this is the last birth I have attended. I had not decided it would be the last one, but after that, however, and sometime after that, I thought that perhaps now, at my age, I'm more useful transmitting what I have learned or the question I have in my mind, rather than attending another birth,
Yeah.
I think that the time when I was in PTVA, I've been as a total, I've been in charge of about 15,000 births, and so others at home after retiring from hospital career. There has been a time when I thought perhaps I'm more useful if I accept to talk to a group of people, curious group of people. So
we're so grateful for that.
Gradually, it happened gradually.
We're very grateful that you keep doing that, and we're looking forward to your new book.
Thank you, thank you.
So briefly, just very, very briefly, in one or two sentences, what is your new book about?
It's a big, apparently many topics. It's called Planet Ocean. The subtitle is all our mysterious connection with water. So I introduced many new topics. I don't want to say too much because I don't know how to, but perhaps one way to answer some question. People ask me when we mentioned the title of this book, I explained how originally I've introduced the concept of birthing pool to say, I started with a garden paddling pool, and how, starting from that, I'm interested in how Homo navigator, our ancestor, Homo navigator, has colonized the Pacific Ocean. How enlarging the topic, always enlarging the topics. So it's a great diversity of topics. It's about human beings, about human nature, in fact, but particularly our relationship with water, and what people don't tend to forget including paleontologists and so on, it is that until recently, until the Neolithic Revolution, we have been mentioning the domination of nature, the sea levels were much lower than now. And something people don't have in their mind, that probably there was a time when most human beings were living in coastal area, along the coast, and we'll never find their fossils, their bones, their tools, and so on, because they were living in places that are covered by the sea now. So when we learn from fossil hunters, people who study the bones of our ancestors, the teeth of our ancestors, they forget to tell us probably most human beings were living in coastal area, along the coast, in places that are now covered by the sea, So it's something which is rarely mentioned, including in scientific milieux. People are too specialized, where over-specialization makes us blind. So it's about the need to, the dangers of being over-specialized. It's a book about human beings, but incredibly difficult to forget, to summarize, very difficult to summarize. Perhaps one day we can do a program about that one day.
Yeah,
definitely. And we would be so honored if you'll come back again and answer more questions, because it's so needed for creating a resilient, sustainable world for our children and grandchildren, to take a fresh approach to birth and to dare raise these difficult and challenging questions that you are raising today. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure I speak for everyone who's here. We are so grateful for your life's work.
thank you so much.
Today.
So good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Yeah.
Yes, it's been a pleasure, really. Bye.
Bye-bye.